It seems like the hottest topic these days whenever talking about PlayStation is the impending release of the PlayStation 5. I know we're still probably north of a year out until the release of the PS5, and there are a ton of compelling PlayStation 4 games yet to be released, whether it be a Death Stranding, a Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, although with a lot of those games I could see them at some point getting a PlayStation 5 release as well, and those aforementioned games are just the exclusives. You look at a Cyberpunk 2077, a Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is also an exclusive, but probably going to be multi-platform at some point. It needs to be said that there are a lot of PlayStation 4 games that have yet to be released. However, it's a lot of fun talking about the PlayStation 5, and the most recent rumor we've gotten about the PlayStation 5 is that it would be launched with two consoles, not only a base model, but also a Pro console. Now, if you guys have been following this channel for quite a while, going back to the early talks of the PlayStation 5, I was adamant from the get-go that I really wanted a PlayStation 5 Pro and a base console released at the same time. Whatever you want to name it, I don't really care, but essentially, I wanted a base model that would be your weaker console, however, it would come at a much more palatable price point, and then I wanted a more powerful console that would be for those that want the premier gaming experience, and according to Japanese journalist Zenji Nishikawa, Sony is planning on launching two different PlayStation 5 models next year, the base and the Pro model. According to the journalist, Sony has acknowledged the high interest in a high-end model and wants to give players what they want right from the beginning of the generation. Now, it is a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. There were also rumblings that outside of the base PS5 and this Pro that's also being rumored, that there would be a cloud-centric console, which is something that I personally wouldn't be all over, but hey, everybody's trying to get into cloud gaming. I can see from a Sony standpoint why they want to do that, but this PlayStation 5 Pro, I am incredibly excited for the idea of it. Now, why am I excited? Well, they've already shown us with this generation that they are willing to make a more powerful version of a generational console, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. However, the issue with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro is that the PlayStation 4 Pro came 3 years after the release of the PlayStation 4. Now, that's well and good, and seeing a mid-generational upgrade is cool. However, the PlayStation 4 Pro, just by design, is a console that is really going to be catered towards adamant PlayStation fans. If you are a hardcore PlayStation fan, you want to pay the extra to get the most premier experience. However, the way that the release was structured, the PlayStation 4 Pro being released mid-generation, the majority of people buying a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I'm sure that there are exceptions here and there, but the people that I talked to that picked up a PS4 Pro, those are the hardcore PlayStation audience that already had a PlayStation 4 and already bought a PlayStation 4 either at launch or shortly thereafter. What does that mean? Well, that means that over the course of the generation, that consumer, that specific consumer that bought a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 4 Pro spent a whopping $800 on their consoles. Now, you can make the argument they could have traded in their base console, they could have sold their base console, but even if that was the case, you're getting a fraction of your initial investment, and let's say you were to get $200 back because by the time the PlayStation 4 Pro was released, the value of the base model had depreciated quite a bit, so getting $200 for a trade-in would probably make sense. That's $600 still for a PlayStation experience over the course of the generation, and it's not even like the PlayStation 4 Pro was a substantial improvement upon the PlayStation 4. Nothing like what the One X was to the One, but it was a decent upgrade. But why not have that option right out of the gate? Yes, I know the PlayStation 3 is what people always look back on, and they say the price point of that console ruined everything. $599 is one of the most iconic and cringeworthy moments in E3 history. However, it was a different climate back then. Nowadays, not only are consumers seemingly more willing to spend more money for a premier gaming experience, look at PC gaming, people are dropping a lot of money on high-end PCs. Not only that, but you would also offer a cheaper option, which yes, the PlayStation 3 offered, but that was still a $500 option with a 20GB hard drive or whatever. People did not want to get that. And going back to the PlayStation 3, yes, you can point towards the price being the main issue with the PlayStation 3. I'm not gonna really debate that, but there were a litany of issues with the PlayStation 3. Everybody just likes to throw out $599 as a meme, and I get it, it's really fun to say that. However, I lived through the launch of the PlayStation 3. It was an absolute train wreck, especially compared to the 360. The 360 was cheaper, and it offered a more compelling online service. I don't really care if you had to pay to play online. The online service was just leagues upon leagues better, and the 360 initially was just getting random games as exclusives that the PlayStation 3 wouldn't get, and the Xbox 360 had the more compelling library of games. games. There were a lot of factors into the PlayStation 3's downfall initially. Obviously, it recovered when the price dropped and compelling exclusives were put out, but initially it was an absolute disaster for the PlayStation 3, and Sony learned a lot from that. And also parlay that with the fact that the PlayStation 4 Pro has been a relatively successful console. Yes, does it appeal to a smaller audience? I necessarily don't even know, because I don't know specific numbers about how many people picked up a PS4 Pro that also picked up a PS4, but from my anecdotal assessment, it does seem like there's a large portion of people that do have interest in a premier console. Now that brings me to my actual point in this video: how expensive should the PlayStation 5 Pro be? Now, I've touted in videos that maybe a $700 to $800 price point isn't out of the realm of possibility. Now, if I say $700 to $800, people are literally like, what the hell? Who is gonna be paying $700 to $800 for a console? Well, again, people are paying north of $1,000 and $1,200 on a premier gaming PC, so why not have a premier gaming console as well? I don't really want a, decent upgrade that is just a little bit better, because that's what we got with the PlayStation 4 Pro. It was just a little bit better right out of the gate. Give me a monster of a box, and you can make the argument that this is going to dilute the experience and you're going to separate the user base, because some games, if you do create that big of a differential, it is going to make it that the PlayStation 5 Pro would just be hands down the experience that you want, and the base model might have some work to do, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. Again, on PC, which I know isn't an apples to apples comparison, but it's a decent comparison nonetheless, you have people buying $400 gaming PCs. That is a thing, and they are running games pretty decently. And also, with developers these days being relative wizards in getting games to run on lower end hardware, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But if people want that premier 4K 60 FPS experience, I don't believe that you're going to be able to get that out of a $400 box. I know some people are just inherently thinking that, oh, next gen is going to be 4K 60 FPS. I find that very, very hard to believe if the console is going to be $400, and we know that Sony is going to aim for a $400 price point with the base console, just because that has been incredibly successful. You don't need to fix what isn't broken. However, I do implore a release of a PlayStation 5 Pro, because people are going to want to play whatever the case may be, an Uncharted 5, a God of War 2 on the PlayStation 5 Pro. They want to get that premier 4K 30 FPS experience even. I don't know if you guys realize, but 4K is incredibly hard to run, and if the games are just going to continue to look better and better, and then there's talk of games running at 8K, which I'm just not even going to talk about at this point. 8K would be absolutely insane. And then you also look at the factors of like ray tracing trying to be done on the PlayStation 5. Ray tracing in a $400 box is absolutely insane, given that, again, not an apples to apples comparison, but on PC, if you want a premier ray tracing experience, you are not building a $400 PC to get a premier ray tracing experience. And I find that hard to fathom if that's going to be done in the PS5. The PS5 also going to have a special SSD, and you just look at the hardware that's being touted for the PS5 already, since we have a decent idea of what's going to be in the box. It is going to be some insane hardware, so I think pricing is going to be something very interesting to monitor. But at the end of the day, if you offer that base console that's $400, I think you really open the floodgates to price the PlayStation 5 Pro whatever the hell you want and fit whatever hardware you want to get into it. The only issue from a Sony standpoint is that just having a box that's priced at $700 or $600, let's say $600 to $700, I think that's a lot more acceptable. $800 I could understand for a console would be a little bit too crazy, but let's say $600 to $700 for this premier high-end console. Just touting that you have a console that's $600 to $700 might be off-putting to some people right away, but that's why the promotional push and the marketing push should not be around the PlayStation 5 Pro. All of the ads that you see, all of the billboards that you see come the time that the PlayStation 5 is ready to be released should absolutely be centered around the base model. The Pro is for the enthusiast that already knows everything about PlayStation. They're already super invested into PlayStation. They're super invested into gaming. You don't have to market towards that audience, so just let that be like a little offshoot thing that, yes, the hardcores are going to be super into that, the people with disposable income are going to be super into that, but they'll find that out on their own. When it comes to the marketing push, center that all around the base PlayStation 5, because the typical dad that's looking to buy a console for their kid for the holidays, they might not want to spend $600 to $700 on a box. However, they probably will be down to spend $400 on a box, and that's why marketing is going to be very important if you do want to release two consoles side by side like this. Again, it's all rumors right now, but I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys think. Do you care about the price of the PlayStation 5 Pro? Would you be willing to pay $600 to $700 for a premier box? I know that I would, given that I bought a PlayStation 4, then I turned around and bought a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I personally still have both of those consoles. I didn't get rid of my base console, and there's definitely benefits to that. I can have a PlayStation 4 in my living room as well as in my own personal room. I get the idea of that, but collectively did drop $800 this generation on consoles, and that is a little bit hefty. So let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. You can sound off there. Let me know if you agree, disagree, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.